Hello there, health coaches. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am thrilled to have a very special guest with us for this episode that is being pre recorded, by the way. By the time you hear this, I will be in sunny Iceland. I thought that would be a good idea in February. So we'll see how it goes, but taking
Is
a
that
little bit
like
of
an
a vacation
oxymoron?
week.
Sorry.
And I will be releasing this episode while I'm away, featuring my friend Dylan. So, today we're going to talk about three things that are keeping you from getting health coaching clients. And we only know because we've been doing this work since 2009.
Mhm.
And Dylan and I met on a bus going to the Institute for Integrative Nutrition many, many, many years ago. And when we were just students, and we've both been in the industry ever since. So before we get into all those things that are getting in your way of connecting with the clients you need, Dylan, will you introduce yourself to everybody?
Sure, awesome. Yes, we did meet on a bus. We were commuting down to go live from Boston to New York. I started getting clients. I started doing one-on-one coaching and then actually pivoted out to do a lot of work with companies. So I've done all kinds of things. Like I've done TEDx talks. I've worked with companies from a local business all the way up to like Microsoft and WeWork and places like that. And still doing that, actually, still doing individual clients and also trying to work with either school districts, companies, just trying to reach more people to improve workplace environments.
And like we still both always kept a hand in like helping other health coaches. I know you've been
Yeah.
doing that for many, many years as well.
Yes, yes. Also working with IIN. So a lot of you who are joining might recognize me from the IIN coaching circles. I've been doing their calls since 2010,
I did them in 2010 too, but that was the only year I ever did. And you've done them all this time.
all this time.
Wow. So I bet a lot of our listeners are familiar with you. So this is great. Dylan's going to be starting to help us out inside our Health Coach Power Community Facebook group. So you'll be seeing him there. And if it's the more familiar faces, the better. Of course, we have health coaches from all different health coaching schools these days. But back in 2009, I think there were only two. Do you remember looking into any other schools besides IIN?
And the only, I didn't even know there were any others. The only reason I went there was because I had worked with a health coach who went to IIN. So I had a direct referral.
Yeah, yeah, it
Yeah.
was. I think the other one was on the West Coast. So for us in Boston, and we still had to go in person. There was no other option, and so we were trekking down to New York back in the day.
Yeah.
Anyway, all this to say, you guys, we have been there. We have struggled through putting together our email list for the first time. Do you remember getting together and trying to work on our business when it was
I
like
do. I remember we
brand
sat
new?
outside Whole Foods in Boston. Yeah.
Yes, we'd be like, "Do you want to get together and try to figure this out?"
Yeah.
Ah,
It was so
so
hard.
hard, so hard in the beginning, but we both hung in there and did different things along the way.
Yeah.
So So let's start here. You've been talking to health coaches for now 15, 16 years, just like I have. What do you hear come out of their mouths the most often that's keeping them from like even having the right mindset to working with clients?
It is something I hear so many times a day. I was sharing with you, if I had $1 for every time I heard this, I'd be, a billionaire probably. But I hear this term imposter syndrome followed up by why should anyone listen to me? And it's baffling to me because I never had that thought when we were sitting in IIN. I never felt this way. So I've really been trying to get curious about where did this come from? Like, where is this? Well, and also, did people feel like this when we were at IIN? Like, are we just what's that term? Like we were just way ahead of the curve, or we have something special or unique, or that we were able to do it. But I'm really curious. But that's absolutely what I hear is a lack of self-confidence, a lack of um, belief in self, and like a real fear. And this thing, like, why should anyone listen to me?
Do you think that you were a little ahead of the curve there coming from a teaching background? Like, hey, I'm used to being at the front of the room and I'm used to having people listening to me.
I think so. Yeah. I mean, I think that helped me do more group presentations. But like you were saying, I didn't know how to build a newsletter. I didn't know how to build a website. As you were talking, I remember you helping me learning coding. You were helping me back when we had to build our own sales pages before they had websites that like did it for you. You and I were doing the coding to build a sales page for our product offerings in like 2011. And I didn't know how to do any of that stuff, but the thought never occurred to me like I don't have any right to do this or that no one should listen to me. I don't know, but a lot of people do.
Yeah, I hear it all the time. I mean, I felt that way a little bit because of my career change and the sort of identity shift that came with that. Because one minute I was an art director and I had built a career as an art director. I was very proud of the fact that I was an art director. And then when I left advertising, I was like, I'm a I'm a health coach, I guess now. Like, and I did. I'm like, how could I be a health coach? I don't have years of experience. I did not go to a 4-year college, to
Right.
become a health coach. And so I think I did have some of that, but
Mm.
it wasn't as deeply ingrained as what I'm often hearing from coaches. Now, I know you have a theory about why this may be the
I
case.
do. I do have a theory. I think it's the onset, not of social media, but of influencer culture. I think I think it has completely, this didn't exist when we started. Facebook was in its infancy, right? So, and it was a fun place to hang out and it worked. It actually worked for building a business. This was before they started with all the algorithm nonsense. But absolutely, I think coaches forget that the job of a coach is so completely different than being an influencer or being a content creator. They're two completely different jobs. And I think the way that this has really co-opted people's minds, and they think to be able to run a business or to be able to get clients, I have to sing and dance and do recipe videos, and they have to do these trends and these fads that they see. And I think we benefit from knowing you absolutely don't need to do that. And you can actually run a business without necessarily relying on social media in general at all. I'm not saying don't do it at all, but we didn't have it. And look what we did.
Talk
So
about this
I'm glad
all the
I'm glad we were
time.
so ahead of the curve. Yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
social media is just one tool in the toolbox. And like, I really don't even think it's that effective of a
I don't
tool
either.
compared to like doing that workshop at the natural food store. In fact, I remember attending, maybe it was one of your first or your very first, or I don't know, workshops at the co-op in Cambridge.
That's right.
Yes, because I wanted to see you do it. And okay, so this is to your point. We were not constantly looking at our phone going like, oh, this health person looks like this and I don't look like that, and this health person's talking like this, I should talk like that. Like this, I think these days it's the only connection that health coaches have to other people in the wellness industry through the phone, including going to school. Even the going to school process, it's all happening on a screen. When we
Yeah.
were all together in Lincoln Center for those weekends, I don't remember it being a bunch of like blonde haired, supermodel, healthy looking influencer types. Do you?
Not at all. Not at all. We were all shapes and sizes and identities, and the thought leaders and the influencers were right in front of us, sharing their struggles. The question is though, how can people avoid it when it is the water that we swim in? How can they realize, and I will agree with you. I don't even think it's that helpful as a tool anymore because the tools are designed for the house to win, like the casino. They're designed to keep us on the apps, not to actually help you do the thing that you're trying to do. And I could probably count on one hand how many clients I got from social media in 15 years. Less than one hand.
And you've been there. It's not that you haven't been on social
Oh,
media.
totally. And all these opportunities, all the speaking opportunities that I got, all these opportunities to work with companies was me being in a room, me getting dressed and walking up and knocking on a door and putting myself up for that rejection. There's this fear, intense fear of rejection or failure, as people call it. And I keep telling them the only failure is not trying. That's the only failure is not trying. You give yourself a 50-50 shot if you just show up and try. And in
I
fact,
like,
you increase your odds a lot because people will probably say yes because they meet you as opposed to seeing you on a screen, like you said.
right, exactly. Especially these days, because most things are just coming on the screen. So you show up
Oh,
in person. Whoa.
yep.
Wow, wow, wow. And you said failure. I like the term redirection.
Yeah.
This isn't for me right now. It's showing me a path over here. I know it's hard, you guys. I know. I mean, a lot of starting a business or running a business, I've always felt is similar to dating, where you
Yeah.
do just have to show up and it is vulnerable and you are
Yeah.
going to hear no a lot. And you should be saying no a lot too, because opportunities are going to come by where you should, and how to learn this the hard way, go, that's not for me. Right. But that is going to get you further than like posting every day with like the perfect set of hashtags or whatever the kids are doing these days.
Mhm.
Um, Yeah, I think that the game has really changed because we are so much less in person. But I'll back you up. When we were in the room together at Lincoln Center, all shapes, all sizes, all ethnicities. I mean, it was a real mixed bag, and even our presenters,
Mhm.
right? They weren't all like perfect Instagram influencer types.
No. No. Yeah, because it didn't exist. It's just, I guess that's what I try to say to people too. It's a construct. The influencer thing is a construct of the marketing industry. And that's another thing is a lot of people feel like they believe what they see. They see these people, but then I know that I have them on the calls sometimes. I'll have these people in the coaching circles and these calls that I have, and they'll have like 80,000 followers. I barely have 5,000 followers. And they're sitting there talking about how they feel like imposters because they worked the system, whatever, they got all these followers and they actually don't even know what they're talking about. So talk about the ultimate imposter syndrome, right? But I think a lot of people watch these people and they think, oh, they're the real thing. And they're not the real thing. They're just posturing to be, they're just posturing. They're not authentic. So there's that.
That's a great insight. Did you guys hear that? Because it's true, but we don't want to believe it. We don't always know the people. You're hearing straight from someone who's meeting them.
Yeah.
The person with 80,000 followers probably has no clients. They have no confidence. They don't know what they're talking about. And they have the same question hanging over their head as everybody else.
That's right.
And who am I to do this work? Isn't that
Right.
crazy?
Yep. And like the difference of like them saying that they have I'll hear people say too, like, oh, I see all these people, they have these successful coaching businesses. I said, do you know that? Do you see their tax returns? You don't actually know, like you're believing what they're saying. So maybe just stop listening so much and just focus on your own lane and do your
Really
own
good
thing.
advice.
Yeah.
Really good advice. And since we're talking kind of about social media here, it's a good time to just remind everyone that inside like any of the courses that we have inside Healthy Profit University, inside this spring's Fast Track, for example, social media is optional, right? It is, I have never found the path to clients to include we're going to send people messages, strangers messages all day on Instagram. No, we're not doing that. We're going to throw thousands and thousands of dollars into Facebook ads in order to find clients. No, that's not it either. So if you want to learn about all the other tools that have been working since the dark ages, like when Dylan and I started doing this work and
Yep. When
still
they
work today, and even work when the algorithm changes or Facebook goes down, or God knows what's going on these days. You might want to put your name on the wait list for Fast Track because you're going to walk away with that whole tool belt full of tools. So you're not every day just looking at your Instagram feed going like, oh, I'm spending an hour scrolling to find inspirations for what I should post. And why do I not have any clients? No, 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 no. So the wait list is open now. It's at healthcoachpower.com/waitlist. And to the point about everyone in the room being different, which PS we need. Maybe we could talk a little bit more about that too. We could probably talk for hours and hours about this,
I
and we
know this is gonna be
often
a
do.
three-part podcast.
Yeah, this will be a three-parter.
Yeah.
We need different faces, different bodies, different people in the room. We need health coaching to become more than a white woman's game. I'm just going to say it. So since 2020, we've had an equity scholarship available for the Spring Fast Track program, and it is open now for anyone to apply who identifies as person of a Black, Indigenous person of color, LGBTQ, someone living with a disability. If you can get into communities that, for example, I can't, right? Like I don't have those connections. I don't resonate with, I don't have the trust, and you do. I want to help you succeed. So we have a scholarship available. You can apply at healthcoachpower.com/equity. Okay, enough of that. Let's get back into the reasons that our coaches are not getting the clients that they want. So one might be this like sort of universal imposter syndrome. So if we all have it, I guess we can just, that levels the playing field. That means we can all just get rid of it. We're all
Right.
feeling the same imposter. That means actually we're all the same. We're all
Right.
ready to do this work. What about things that come up in life that have kept you? I'm sure your career, I know your career has not just been like a perfect path up, 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 up every year. So tell us about the down moments, because I think a lot of our coaches, when life gets a little hard, there's a challenge, there's like a turn of events, health coaching seems to like just take a back seat.
Mm.
Do you see
Mm.
that too?
You mean the building of the business?
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that's an important thing to think about when it is time to just maybe just make time for yourself and restore yourself. And I think that I can definitely speak to one of the most difficult periods when it was accumulation of different things that happened in my life, but it was also like burnout, going and pushing hard really through things where I really felt like I maybe could have taken time out or something. But I did hit this period in 2016 where I moved from Boston to Vermont, and I lived in a renovated barn, and I truly questioned my ability to continue in every aspect of my life, honestly. I felt like I didn't really it was an existential crisis time. And what I did is at first I prioritized myself. And I said, I'm gonna just nurture myself and really take care of my health right now, my physical, mental, spiritual, emotional health. And when I did that, it was a series of months. Then the energy came back and I just jumped right back into my business again. So that's one of the things I want to say to people too. Sometimes being unstoppable means stopping temporarily, but not forever. But also how to try to keep things going. Because even during that period, I still sent my newsletter out. I kind of figured out what is the minimum that I can do and want to do to maintain momentum, to maintain, because honestly, doing this work inspires me. I love it. It's amazing to have found my purpose, right? So, and then when I have more energy, when I feel better, then I do more things. I don't know if
That's
that answers your
exactly how
question.
I approached like my maternity leave, which for those of you just listening, you can't see me. I have air quotes around maternity leave because when you try
Right.
to take time off from a business that you're running, you don't really get that 3 months straight up maternity leave. But it was the same thing. What's the minimum that I could commit to, even while having my first baby, my second baby, et cetera? And that was for me the same thing. I'm going to keep getting my emails out. I'm going to maintain that connection to my list. I mean, I straight up brought the laptop to the hospital, so I could, yeah.
I'm
So
smiling because
anyway,
I'm remembering you did a lot more than that. And the two of us is very clear, like we're like way overachievers amidst the most profound adversity. Because you were running programs when he was like toddlers, you know what I mean? You were doing a lot.
uh,
You didn't
well,
take,
yes, and I did take some time where
yeah.
it was just like I'm gonna do these one, two, three things, and like that's it. Which is different from what I see happening a lot with a lot of our coaches. Well, such and such happened, so I stopped coaching. I haven't done anything for 3 years. I haven't done anything for 3 years. And so if you're running real hot and real cold in your business, it's incredibly difficult to maintain any kind of momentum that you've built, or certainly to grow. And I think we've both gone through some like really significant life challenges in the past 16 years, as most people have. And to say like at no point did we like just say, you know what? And it would have been very easy to say, I'm just going to go back and get like a 9 to 5 kind of job.
Right.
Did you ever think about that?
I did think about it. Um, Absolutely. And I actually did. So this is a both and. So maybe this is going to be helpful for listeners. After supporting myself through tremendous adversity, I still did support myself, pay my own rent. I stayed in the black between 2009 and 2020. And it's incredible. And then when COVID hit, I was like, you know what? Maybe it's a good time to get off the entrepreneurship train. I've proven to myself, but this was like an existential crisis. I'm saying that term again. This was a difficult decision for me because it battled a lot of, have I failed? Is this a failure if I go back and get a job? And for me, I sat with that question and I said, no, Dylan, this is you taking care of yourself because you don't know what's going to happen in the world right now. It was already hard and challenging to be an entrepreneur, and maybe just go take care of yourself. So I actually went back to classroom teaching for 2 years and did my business too.
And by
And
doing your business, you mean
my coaching. Yeah, like
you were
send
still
my
meeting with
newsletter out.
clients, et cetera?
I was seeing clients, I was sending my newsletter out, I was doing virtual events on weekends. I had actually it was one of my highest earning years because my
Wow.
business was thriving because I was thriving. And so I absolutely considered that. I've had to make different decisions, and I think this is important. Everyone has to make different decisions based on what their circumstances in life are to be able to take care of yourself. And sometimes it means doing health coaching full time. Sometimes it means doing two clients a month, but
Mhm.
you're still a health coach. Even if you're sending a newsletter out, even if you're like anything you're doing is being a health coach. And you got to find what's sustainable for you and what you need in your life to supplement what I would always call funding the dream. Sometimes it meant working at Whole Foods part-time for me, because then it like relaxed me so that I could have the mental energy and didn't have that desperation to find clients, because we all know that that drives them off. It doesn't attract people when you're in that place.
Much like dating, the desperation does not help. So
100%. The analogy is very legit, very much. Yeah.
So I guess the takeaway here is if you're going to pause from your business for a while, what is that one thing? What are that small amount of work that you can maintain so that you're not starting over from scratch again and again and again? That's a pattern that I'd like to see health coaches getting away from. You're right. You are still acting as a health coach, even if you're just sending that one email a month to your
Mhm.
list. You're doing yourself a service too, because then you don't need to come back from nothing. You would have maintained what you had. And
Yeah.
that's really important if you're trying to build a business. I think you mentioned this, but I wanted to share, part of my story, like when I went through my divorce, for example. I think the hardest time of my life, right? Being responsible for two little kids, and we were living in my uncle's basement. I was sleeping on a couch, and I kept working.
Mhm.
And I had to do less, of course. My life was blown up like this. But I mean, if you guys go back in the podcast archives, you will see podcast episodes that I did in my uncle's backyard. I did one in his unfinished part of his basement where all his tools were. There were like spiders running around. But I still got this show out every week because it was very grounding. And this work can be. It's like even when my life was a hot mess, I was still providing value. I was still having purpose in the world. And I found that healing and grounding and like exactly what I actually needed to get through those challenging times. If I had walked away fully, I think I would have been walking away from part of myself too. So just something to consider, that sometimes the business is what's going to keep you, like make you the best you could possibly be during those hard parts of life. Again, it's
I,
going to be different for everyone.
I completely agree with you. What I think we've done is we really internalized the identity of health coach, right? Like we're like, I identify as a health coach, and I agree with you. I've always said this, like when so many other aspects of my identity in my life were in flux, my relationship to my identity as health coach never has changed. Like that is who I am. That is what I do, and you're right. It totally grounds me when everything else feels off.
Yes. Well, it's so wonderful to be able to help someone when you yourself are like, oh, like, and this, sometimes you can get imposter syndrome over it. How can I help anyone else if my life is a mess? But there's parts of you that you're figuring out today. Someone else is figuring out something totally different. You can still be of service to them.
Totally.
We are never solved. We are never perfect. We are never 100% healthy and 100% happy. And now we can health coach.
Right.
Every single one of us struggles with our health and our happiness and everything else in between.
Yeah, and that goes back to what we were talking about earlier, is that when you see these people, whoever these people are, influencers or, experts, don't make the assumption that their lives are perfect. They're just not telling you the messiness of their lives, but they have very messy lives, just like you. They're not all put together, but they just don't say it. And that's one of the cool things about health coaches is we can say that. You still showed up amidst the mess. And that's what makes us so relatable and so inspiring. I wish I saw those. I want to go see the spider episodes.
Oh my gosh, you'll be able to find them. And a lot
Okay.
of people actually were emailing me, and you may have been one of them, but also people I didn't know at all, commenting on how much weight I had lost. Because, when you're going through a very stressful time, I was still showing up on camera every week. And thank you all for noticing, but I did lose like 20 pounds in that process. So it's all documented all the way back. But
Yeah,
that's what makes us real, right? Showing up when you've got a cold, showing up when something's going on in your life. You can keep helping other people. That's what I want everyone listening to know.
absolutely.
One thing you mentioned somewhere over the past 20, 30 minutes or so is how you sometimes had to like take the job at Whole Foods, like fund the dream. You had to make the money so that you could stay in the black, you could support yourself. And that's something else that, at least these days, now that I'm not married, and that you've been dealing with this whole time, is what happens when you are responsible for paying your own bills versus someone running a business who doesn't have any of that kind of pressure. Would you say it puts like too much stress on you, or could it be a good thing?
I think it's the good kind of stress because if nothing's hurting, there's no urgency. And I think this happens with a lot of people who want to be health coaches. If they have a life circumstance where they don't have that urgency that you and I had for different reasons, we had it for different reasons, but it's the same driving motivator. It's easy to just get lazy. It's easy when that paycheck just drops itself into if you have a full-time job or if you have a partner or a living circumstance, it's very hard but when you're motivated, like, how am I going to pay my rent? I think it helps you override the fear. When you don't have that, it's easier to just let the fear consume you. And I definitely saw that. That's what I love about the years that I took full-time employment, because I saw how lazy I got. And I was
You
like,
said you
what is
had a
going
great
on with me?
year.
What's that?
You said you made the most you ever made that year that you were
I know, well, in
teaching.
comparison, but I was lazy. It was just easier because now I had also built a reputation, so I was kind of
That's
coasting
true.
on that, and I also was charging more for my time. So it was like the accumulation of all of those years, but I still wasn't taking as much initiative as I had in earlier years.
Right. You did that after you had been in business for a long time.
Yeah.
But early on, yeah, when I was still married and the bills were going to get paid regardless, and I was going to have my car regardless, and I was
Yeah.
going to have a roof over my head and food in the refrigerator regardless, I wouldn't say I was lazy, but it was a whole different level of hustle when I realized I'm funding this now.
Mm,
And you get so much more creative because you don't go, oh, that didn't work. Oh, I give up. Bye. You go, that didn't work. I have a different idea. I'm going to
yes.
try that now. And that
Yeah,
whole, the mother of invention, right? It's the necessity.
totally. I mean, I have a question for you. I don't know if you feel comfortable. I mean, what made you keep persisting with this as opposed to going back and getting a full-time job with those circumstances?
Honestly, I have found it more reliable. Thank you, by the way, for on my own podcast asking me a question that I may not be comfortable answering,
Sorry. Sorry.
but I'm open book, open book.
Because I
Um,
think it'd be inspiring. I mean, because that's really incredible that you never gave up.
I guess working 9 to 5, and also a lot of my friends, in advertising, there are a lot of layoffs. I mean, that's ultimately how I left advertising, was getting laid off.
Yeah.
Nothing's a sure thing, even when you think, even when you're married for a long time, nothing's a sure thing. So I've always felt that I am more nimble and more able to earn, and I have unlimited earning potential working for myself, plus the ultimate in flexibility, right? To be there with my kids, and not have to pay for full-time daycare for 2 kids is very important for a number of years. Now they're older. But I always felt like this actually was a better bet. Whereas if I had gone back to get another job, I see this a lot with entrepreneurs. They hit a point and they forget it. I got to go back. I got to get the 9 to 5. I need the paycheck. I need the W-2. 6 months later, they quit. Like
Mhm.
just can't stand it. But anyway, even if the job was fine, there's going to be a ceiling. There's an HR department telling you how much that position is ever going to earn. You're just going to get that like 2% raise if you're lucky. And I have always been able to do much better on my own. And if it's not working for whatever reason, pivot, try this, pivot, try that. I remember in 2020 when everything was crazy, thinking, oh, this is it. This is the end for me. And similar experience for you is like my highest grossing year ever because we got really creative.
Right. And I think one thing you're demonstrating is, and I can relate, is like when you've shown yourself you can do it, you almost get like, I'm never really going to be able to listen to anybody else anymore, like, and I think that's what a lot of people who are starting, they don't give themselves the chance to see that they can do it. And once you see that you can do it, then you almost get like I really want to keep showing myself in the world that I can do this. And And I just think it's incredibly motivating and really exciting. And it's hard to go back to taking direction from somebody else or doing something that you don't love as much when you realize you can do it. And that
Oh, I think I am completely unemployable at this point. I'm sure you are too, right? You just get used to being able to make the decisions, and there's no red tape when you work in a larger organization. There's a lot of red tape. It's very hard to make change. But when you work for yourself, like I said, very nimble, very able to pivot. Can you remember one of those times, maybe in the early years back in 2009, 2010, something like that, where you were like, "Oh, I did this thing as a health coach, like, I have the confidence now," or at least 1% more confidence?
Totally. Absolutely. I mean, I think the getting up, you make a good point. The getting up and giving the talks and the workshops wasn't that much of a stretch for me, although I know it is one of the top 5 biggest fears for most people. So they don't feel comfortable doing that. But for me, it's super easy. But the biggest thing for me was more of the tech stuff, like the building. I'll never forget that feeling of the first time I built my own website landing page for my one of my programs, and people like I got the buttons to work and like the money actually went to my bank account. I was like, there's no going back after this. Like this is or I'm trying to think of something else, but that really stood out where I really did something that I had never done before. I never thought I would ever do in my life. Sorry for my cat freaking out. But and then just feeling like I would have never had this experience if I hadn't been in this situation. Like that's the thing is like the things that you learn that you can do. It's unbelievable. The confidence that it gives you. It's a kind of confidence that I hadn't gotten from anything I'd done in my life.
That's a great example because for other people, the tech stuff's gonna be easy, but presenting is going to be very hard. Last year we started giving all done for you materials to our fast track group so that more of them could have that experience, right? Because there's so many hurdles. Like, let's say you're going to hold a webinar, you got to set up the opt in page, you have to create the presentation, you need slides, you need to learn how to present on Zoom. We do it like 90% of that is done inside Fast Track. And so more and more of our coaches are like, oh my God, I did it. I pulled it off. And they get that feeling that tells your brain, I'm sure there's a scientific mechanism happening here, goes, I can do it. I actually just did it. So that proves I can do the hard things. And that's where we see this like huge leap forward, as opposed to the coaches that just get stuck in the like, well, I can't figure out the button on the page. So I guess I just won't.
Mhm. Totally. Yeah, a lot of people need more help. And when they get that help, they can see that they can do it. Yeah, you're right. There is a lot of gates to pass through that a lot of people just can't make it through for whatever reason. And also the lack of support. So you offer that support too, like that encouragement. People will just sit there and get discouraged. So then you create the community of the support for people to help
Well,
them.
and also the help because, back when we were just like schlepping through the early stages, well, how'd you do it? Well, what'd you make it? Where should we do a workshop? I don't know. So you just need like people to talk to, people who've done it before. So we'll get like today, we got a question inside, the Facebook group, and it was just so easy to answer because I've done that thing before. It was like a little tech thing, but I only know the answer because I've literally done it like 30 times. This is someone's first time doing it. We all need that like big sister, big brother, someone like showing us the way because they've done it already. And so anyway, I'm psyched that you're going to be joining us inside of our Facebook communities because you have done this sort of thing before. If not the exact situation, you've been in that situation of I have to figure this out. And I know you have so much to share with all of our coaches. So I just like want to formally say welcome.
Thank you.
We're going to
Thank
be
you.
really happy to have you.
It's gonna be
And
really
once again, I want to remind all of our listeners that if you like this idea of passing through some of those gates more quickly and easily, that's what our live fast track program is going to help you do. It starts this spring. You can get on the waitlist now at healthcoachpower.com/waitlist. And PS, by doing so, you will get best possible pricing and bonuses. So even if you're not sure, you might as well just put your name on the list anyway. And remember, we do offer an equity scholarship at healthcoachpower.com/equity. And please, if it doesn't apply to you, pass that along to someone who it does apply to, or share it with your health coach networks, because this is for the greater good. This is so that health and wellness can get into the hands of the people who need it most around the world. Dillan, thank you so much for joining today. You want to tell everybody like your Instagram or what's the best place for people to contact you?
My website is my name, DillanDiGiovanni.com, and that'll show, some of the companies I've worked with and also what I do with individuals. And then my Instagram is the same. Well, it's Dillan.DiGiovanni.
Fantastic. We'll put all that in the show notes. So if you don't already know Dylan, you soon will. Thanks for being here again, and we'll see you all soon. I guess when I'm back from Iceland. Take
Have a
care,
great trip.
everyone.